Good afternoon. I have a couple questions for you. Who likes seafood? Show of hands. Excellent. How many of you, with a show of hands, ask where your fish comes from, where your seafood comes from, and how it's caught? All right, so my goal in the next 5 minutes is to persuade more of you to want to ask that question and to use a tool that I will introduce to you in a little while that's in front of you. Why should you care? There's tons of reasons why you should care, but I'll let you know my top 3. 1, ocean conservation. 2, your health. And 3, your food supply. So let's start with ocean conservation. There's a lot of fishing gear out there that is very harmful to the environment. There's big bottom trawls that drag the net and bring up a lot of fish, a lot of seafood, and they're also not very selective, so they both destroy the habitat underneath and they bring up a lot of fish that are not necessarily the fish that are being targeted. And those fish are called bycatch. They're usually thrown over the side and not used. So there's a lot of waste there. So not everything is not doom and gloom in this picture, though. I want to make sure that's clear. And so what I provided you with in front of you is a seafood watch card. And this helps you make good choices when you buy seafood. Turn it over to the side that has the green, yellow, and red on it. In the green column, you'll find fish and other seafood that is fished or farmed sustainably. The yellow column is a cautionary column where it's still good choices, but things may change in the future. And then the red column is the column you want to avoid. It is under here are fish that are not currently being caught or farmed in a sustainable manner. And some of these include bottom trawl fish. It's important on here to note that there's a source and a species, and that's one of the key things. And so with this, it provides a lot of good information. Now let's talk about your health. You'll look at this card and you'll see salmon on all 3 columns. So what's that all about? Salmon's everywhere. Well, it depends on where it's caught and how it's farmed. So in the red column is Atlantic farmed salmon. Atlantic farmed salmon is typically grown in large pens, fairly crowded. They put a lot of pesticides and antibiotics in that water to ensure that those fish are healthy. It takes 10 pounds of wild-caught fish to grow 1 pound of farmed-raised fish. And salmon that grow in the wild, they eat mostly krill, which has a pigment that incorporates into their flesh and gives them that orange color. Farmed salmon are not fed krill. They are fed a substitute. It's a petroleum-based chemical that has the same kind of component as the krill do, this color pigment, a carotenoid, which then gets incorporated into their tissue and makes them orange, because nobody's going to buy white salmon. So they want to make sure that it's orange. So that's one that you want to avoid for your health. But there are good choices on that. On the green list are Alaska salmon, and in the yellow list are the California, Oregon, and Washington salmon. So Alaska has a lot of habitat still for salmon that hasn't been impacted as much as our habitat along this coast, and they have a very robust population of salmon. Anything you buy that says Alaska salmon on it is a good choice. However, for us here, I believe that local caught Monterey salmon is a better choice because it has a smaller carbon footprint. You're not hauling all that salmon down here from Alaska, and it supports the local economy. Those are 2 really important reasons why for us here, would recommend what's locally caught. So let's talk about your food supply. We are really good at fishing. 40% of the global population relies on seafood as their primary source of protein. And we have a lot of boats out there, we have a lot of nets, big boats, big nets, and we do a very good job of bringing in a lot of fish. 90% of our fisheries are either fished to capacity, overfished and on the decline, or have completely collapsed. And that's a really important number. That's sort of shocking. And what happens is fishermen generally go for the larger fish, and once they fish like sharks and swordfish, and once they've fished those, they move down the food chain to smaller things like sardines and squid. And now those smaller prey are really important food for the rest of the ecosystem, for birds, for mammals, and also larger fish. And once those fish start to get eaten, then we can have a really big impact on the ecosystem. So something to pay attention to. And again, this card is something that can help you make those choices, because it's not an easy story. It's not farmed is bad and wild is good, because some farms are not done in a sustainable manner. They are not lined. They leak contaminants into the surrounding habitat area, and also with imported and domestic. It's not an easy story. You can't just say imported is bad and domestic is good. Oftentimes we don't know what's happening in imported with fish coming from another country, and they'll end up on the caution list because of that. I hope that this is a tool that you will use, and I would like to ask you now, how many of you will now ask where your fish is from? Excellent, thank you very much.